closer look.
I'm Jack Church. We're taking a closer look at an organization based in Greenville, South Carolina, known as Defenders for Children. Defenders for Children works to prevent child abuse, trafficking, and pornography with various services, including one involving electronic detection canines. These canines work with law enforcement finding electronic evidence containing images and videos that help identify and rescue victimized children and adults. Joining us to learn more about Defenders for Children is the founder and executive director, Toni Clark. Well, Toni, as the founder of this organization, Defenders for Children, we'd like to maybe know just a little bit more about you and why you started this organization.
Well, back in 2010, and I was in a meeting with a group of friends, and the director of DSS at that time came out and spoke to everybody and announced that Greenville had the highest rate of child sexual abuse in the state. When we heard that, that was like shocking. The community was not talking about this problem. And at that time, we knew we were going to be a solution by creating a nonprofit, which we had no idea what we were doing at that time. But we were going to do what we can to stop what was happening to the children. And so we created Defenders for Children. And the only way to fight is to literally, the people in general have to come together as one and say, we want to start saving and protecting God's innocent children, and do it now. That's the only way it's going to happen.
So obviously, from what you're saying, there is a great need for the services you're providing.
What we do is definitely needed, as well as with other nonprofits who work with victims directly. But we're on a different angle. We go after ways to stop the abuse from happening in the first place and to help locate those who are being abused that are not being seen.
Well, you know, we mentioned at the top of the show the Canine program, which is very, very unique. Can you describe for us a little about how this works and why it's so important?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Back in not too long ago with Subway, I think it was about 2015, 2016, Jared Fogle case with Subway was the first search involving one of these amazing canines. And it was just a test. The FBI or Homeland Security was doing the search in Jared Fogle's home, which we had a very large home, and they could not find the needed evidence to prosecute Jared. But while they heard about this canine, it was being tested in the community by Todd Jordan, Detection Canines, and they asked Todd to bring the dog out just to try it, to see if it works. And within a short period of time, that dog was able to find the needed evidence to prosecute Jared, and they found out there was live victims as well on that device. So the dog, that's an example of why the dogs are needed, because law enforcement is missing devices, and we know it, and we need to do what we can to help law enforcement with these cases.
And so how do you go about finding and identifying the dogs that you're going to be putting in these programs?
So we communicate with different agencies all over South Carolina and in other states to see how we can help them implement one of these canines that we're gifting from the public to their agency. They're not usually typically don't budget that. These particular canines. But when we get a hold of the sheriff or the police chief and say, we want to donate this canine to you, we want to help you with the canine and training, will you accept the dog? In most cases, they say yes. That kind of gives them a boost and puts women and children up on the priority of these agencies. And also, it brings them a lot of education as well as they learn that they are missing evidence. Kind of eye-opening to them that on average, these dogs locate 2 to 3 devices per search, which is huge because that one device missed can be the device that can lead into a huge trafficking ring, and it could be the one device that will prosecute the criminal. Because without solid evidence, you do not have a case at all. And when I say evidence, they look for thumb drives, micro SD cards, hidden cameras, anything that stores any kind of information like videos and imaging is what the dogs are able to smell. And so the dogs can do that because there's a chemical that's abbreviation is TPPO, and this chemical is on every single reading device. And it's a tiny pin drop, and their nose are so powerful that they can smell it in a big pile of garbage. It's amazing. they're a total gift to us. We love it. And on average, like I said, they will locate 2 to 3 devices per search missed by law enforcement.
If you're just now joining us, this is Closer Look, and I'm Jack Church. We're continuing our conversation with Toni Clark. Toni is the founder and executive director for Defenders for Children, aimed at preventing child abuse. The program involving the canines, of course. How and why has the expansion taken place outside of Greenville?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, Greenville, we are blessed that Greenville Sheriff's Office, the sheriff at that time, was phenomenal, and the agency, the ICAC unit, which is called Internet Crimes Against Children, as well as the Children's Crime Unit. Sergeant Michael Rainey was eager to learn more about the canines, and he was willing to become the handler of this dog we introduced to him. And the dog's name is Q. Q is our first placement of these canines. And Q was so successful and so rewarding to the agency that obviously all the other sheriffs and police chiefs were all hearing about the dogs, and we're starting to approach them all, and they started realizing they need one. And so we were able to place 7 canines in South Carolina due to the success of Q. South Carolina was the first state in the United States to have a blanket of these canines across the state to help battle a horrible, evil fight. And then after that, we started realizing, these criminals travel. They will go from state to state. We had a case not too long ago in South Carolina, in Greenville, where the perpetrator came from New York to pick up a child and bring the child down to Florida. Luckily, the child is still alive, and hopefully she will be okay. But that perpetrator went way out of his way. And it shows you how important it is to make sure every state has every tool needed and find evidence. Because sadly, a lot of them will store videos and imaging of their dirty deeds, of their criminal activity. And we know that. And so we're trying to get the dogs everywhere. We recently launched into Atlanta, which is huge because everybody knows that's like a hub of trafficking, and they will travel. So we got to make sure that we have Atlanta covered. We have a goal to place at least 8 to 10 dogs in Atlanta itself. Another cool thing that we did with the canines, and this is showing why they're growing, Triple P, probation, parole, and pardons, was also the first in the United States to accept a canine, where that dog, the handler just has to pretty much knock on the door, is a good way to explain. They don't have to have a search warrant of those who are like level 3 sex offenders, and they just can do a sweep in there to make sure that offender who already did their time but they're still on probation needs to make sure that they are staying out of trouble. Well, that dog has already rearrested multiple sex offenders who's already been arrested prior. So, which is sad. Some people just don't learn. But the dogs are finding devices and rearresting many of those guys as well.
So as you mentioned, the program's been growing, and of course now you're in the Atlanta area. You have goals, of course, to go far beyond the Southeast as well. I'm curious as to what is the reaction, though, of law enforcement outside of the Southeast as you approach them about this program? Are they apprehensive? Are they questioning it? Or are they like, we're all in?
Each door that we knock on is different. So some of them are all in. They're ready to accept the dog once they have the total understanding what the dog's capable of doing. And then we have others that it's political. We have to go through a lot of hoops to get to the yes that we need. A lot of the budgets depend on it because once we place the dog, they also have to do a couple of things to line up on their end to make sure the dog is taken care of, like the car and other means for the canine as well. But to answer your question, they're all different.
Well, and of course, beyond the canine program, Defenders for Children has a number of other programs, one called Cast Against Abuse, which involves fishing. What does fishing have to do in the fight against abuse?
Well, it's bringing kids at high risk that are coming from rough backgrounds, committing abuse or different situations, to come together with men that care, or women, fishermen, usually bass fishing, and we bring them together for an event where they can see that they're not alone and people are paying attention and want to do what they can to help. So we create these little mini tournaments with the kids and with these volunteers. And don't worry, everybody, we do a background check and make sure everybody's safe. But it's wonderful. The kids love it. Many have never seen a boat before, never been on a lake or even know where held a fishing pole. So it opens up the eyes of many, many kids and also men, because a lot of men realize how much they can help and make a difference.
Let's talk about positive peer pressure and the role it plays through your One Step Stronger program.
We love it. Kids talk to each other. So kids know when they have a friend that's being abused. But the kids that hear this don't know what to do with it. And we bring the teens together to help them create strong messaging about child abuse, trafficking, child pornography, and sextortion, and also even exchanging nudes. The idea is to try to get the kids to start educating each other. And the reason why they trust each other versus hearing from adults. It's typical. My mom doesn't know, my dad doesn't know. But when they're peers and they keep hearing it over and over again among each other and other students, then they feel like they want to be part of this positive movement to do what's right and heed the warnings of what not to do.
I'm guessing this is all volunteer driven?
All volunteer. And we've been blessed that the right people do come together to help us. Like the fishing program, we need people that know how to fish. The One Step Stronger, we need teens and we need parents that are going to help support that as well. And the K9 program, that one's different. That requires possibly fundraising and help us in marketing, getting the word out and education and setting up demos. Because we love to do demos with our K9s as well, where people can actually see how the dogs work and meet some of our law officers. If somebody suspects any kind of abuse, they need to call 911 directly. Talk to the sheriff's office in the county that you reside in.
What would you say are some of the greatest challenges you're facing right now, looking down the road, in the future, when advocating for children's rights and safety?
To be honest with you, funding is always one. We don't receive any state or federal funding. We rely on businesses and individuals to help us with our program. And just getting people to just step up and helping one way or the other. Because we are bad news. We are delivering information people really don't want to hear. And it's sad, it's scary, but our children are in danger and we have to talk about it to stop what's happening. It is going to keep growing as we keep closing our eyes and covering our ears. We have to open our eyes and start listening and doing what we can. Everybody can help one way or the other. It's a matter of finding out what you can do to help to face this. And it's going to come down to more programs, larger programs. It's going to come down to changing laws, getting politicians to start paying more attention. There's a lot to do. There's not one answer to this problem, unfortunately. But social media is one of the largest feeds to the problem. And we would advise all parents to start shutting down a lot of these apps with your children. They do not need to be on the app. Definitely do not. If you ask law enforcement, what's your advice to the parents on how to protect their children? They say, turn it off. Turn off the phones. That's the best advice you can give.
Well, Toni, while the issues you're working on are very, very dark, I'm sure you do have some success stories regarding the positive impact Defenders for Children has on the community.
Oh, man. Well, the success stories is every yes that we get of a law enforcement agency that wants another canine. And then when the handlers will message us about a phenomenal case where the dog located that device that led to a child or the arrest of perpetrators. Because the average perpetrator can have from 1 to hundreds of children that they abuse. And that's the only way to stop the growth is stopping those who are hurting the children. And so we know that we're after that and those dogs are doing it. And when these handlers message us about it, it's phenomenal. It's like it's a win. And we're hoping also with this, it's going to deter a lot of people from getting on these sites or even going down that evil path. Because the more we talk about it, the more the perpetrators or people are listening who might be thinking about doing something they shouldn't be doing. And we're hoping it's going to stop them as well.
Once again, our guest has been Toni Clark. Toni is the founder and executive director for Defenders for Children. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
For a closer look, I'm Jack Church.